Today we're going to start a new sugya, Daf Yud Amud Aleph, at the two dots, Itamar. We're actually going to learn Gemara today, which is really nice. We'll see, I don't know if I have time even to do anything else besides Gemara, but that's okay, I think you're allowed to learn Gemara. If it's worthwhile keeping a finger also in Rashi, which we're going to go back and forth to try to understand at least what's going on. If we have time, we'll see a Tosfos or two. We'll see what happens. Okay, Itmar. So when the Gemara says Itmar, what does that mean? Basic Gemara, what does Itmar mean? So it's a Machlokas, Amarayim. Good. So here we go. Hashochet besakim v'nipses peguma. A guy takes out his shchita knife. What does he do? Nipses peguma. Now, wait a second. What must be this case? What do you mean hashochet besakim v'nipses peguma? When do they find the pegam? After, right? Because what if it's before then? What's a chiddush? Obviously, all of you shach the sakin is no good. Of course, the shchita is not good, right? So it had to be. So what happened? I did shchita, and after shchita, I found the pagam. Okay. Now, listen to this. Amar Rav Huna, afilu shibir ba atzamos kol hayom. The guy takes his knife, and what does he do? He smashes bones the whole day, right? So he does shchita at 10 in the morning. And at 11 and at 12 and at 1, he's using his knife not for shchita, but for hacking up bones. Right? Why you do that with an extremely expensive knife, I have absolutely no idea. Why don't you just use a hatchet? But anyways, he did. He had a tremendous amount of aggression, he had tension built up, he wanted to... Okay. Psula. So, it is puzzle. Meaning, what's puzzle? The knife for sure is no good now. But what do we say? The shchita you did at 10 o'clock. So again, you do shchita at 10 o'clock. And 11 o'clock you take this knife and you play Haka Bone Day. At 11, maybe it's another event. I don't know, right? You do it at 11, you do it at 12, you do it at 1. All of a sudden the guy looks at his knife and he says, whoa, it's pagum. So what might you assume? You'd say, what?
It was
damaged because of the bones. No. Says Rav Huna, afilu shiber batzos kol yom psula. So even though you're hacking bones at 11 and at 12 and at 1, you look at your knife and you say, uh-oh, there's a big dent in it, right? Chayshidan shema be'or nifkama. So what are we worried about? That when the guy did shchita at 10 o'clock in the morning, right? What happened? So he held the animal, he did the shchita. What happened? But or maybe it got dented, it became possible from the shchita, and when it hit the skin. So when at 10 o'clock in the morning, when you shechted, maybe that skin damaged your knife. You smashed bones with it at 11 or 12 and 1, and then of course you discovered that it was pagum. Doesn't matter. We have to be choshesh that maybe at 10 o'clock, but or nifkama.
Is that a weak knife? The skin's going to break the knife.
Is it a weak knife? Again, mishtama, a knife for shchita is not a weak knife, right? Then it's not crack in half. I guess maybe it was potentially close to be blunted, or what? Thick skin, tough cow, right? He's a mad cow, right? Right?
I guess there could be cheaper knives.
I mean,
I don't know.
I saw. Have you guys seen it? A real shchita knife? A real shchita knife. The blade, not the handle. The blade is yay big, right? It's a few $1,000s.
Could be flimsy.
Shchita, right? No, it's little. No, it's not flimsy at all. Very, very strong. The chicken one is much lower. The chicken knife is.
It's got some weight to it too.
No. Yeah, it has weight to it. Yeah, but it's not so heavy. Yeah. So, it's a small sword. Yeah, I wonder if it'd be like, I don't know, legal? I'm not sure. I don't think so. It's not like a concealed weapon. So, it also wouldn't make a very good weapon because it's only like, it's long and it's not, and it's only pointing one side, right? So, I think a sword is better because you have like
both. It's not so stabby either.
And no, there's no stabby. It's a straight, it's squared, right? It's squared off on both ends. It's like a rectangle. So. Okay, so it's not a very good weapon. Well, Anyways, it serves its purpose. That's what it's made for. So here's my question. My question is, what is the chiddush? What is Rav Huna trying to tell us? What's Rav Huna trying to say here?
Probably that we can't take the chance.
Is that it? Now, what can we take the chance on?
That this is non-kosher slaughter.
That so what's fascinating here is that if you're a betting man, right, you have to hedge your bets on bones or skin. The average person would say, what's going to break this knife? What's going to damage this knife? Bones. Nonetheless, now here's what's remember, we have a reusa here. We have a knife that is psula. We have a shechita that was done a few hours earlier. Now, by the way, this is important. Do we check our knife before the shechita? Has to be. You check the knife first. For sure it's no good.
Actually, it's
So Rabbi is Rashi. Rashi says clearly, take a look at 1, 2, second line in like the bottom half of Rashi. It has to be that you checked this perfectly fine. But what happened? You did the shechita, but you didn't check your knife right away. You only checked your knife 3 hours later. And what did you do in between? Shibar Atzamos. You smash bones. So obviously, if you didn't check the shechita knife beforehand, for sure it's no good. We already learned that. And if you were to check your knife right after shechita and it was okay, then of course shechita would be okay. Right? It's only in this case you checked before, and you then only checked a few hours after your shechita. Says Rav Huna. Now, why is it a problem? Shema ba'or nifkama. There's a chance that maybe the skin dented your knife. Okay? Let's go on. But what's the chazaka of this knife? What's the chazaka of this knife?
It's not good. Well, the animal's
okay. So the animal is a chazkas iser because it's Ephraim Nachar that we saw before. What about our knife? What's the chazaka of this knife? It was badak before shechita. Okay, so hold on to that. That's gonna come up. Let's continue reading. Let's see the dissenting opinion. Rav Chizda Amar Kshera. Chizda, what are you talking about? Kshera. After all, Shema be'etzem nifgama. Very simple. Says Rav Chizda, the bone is much more likely that the bone caused the damage. Shema be'etzem nifgama. Now, what is the machlok as at this point? Do you think between Rav Huna and Rav Chizda? Rav Huna holds be'or nifgama. Rav Chizda holds be'etzem nifgama. What are they arguing over?
The chance that it was the skin, the probability.
So it appears from here. What are they saying? That, Or, there's a fact here we have to understand. Can skin cause damage to the knife?
Yeah.
The answer is yes. Can a bone cause damage to a knife? The answer, of course, is yes. The question is, what are the likelihood? Which one's more likely? Rav Huna seems to say, listen, there's a chance it's the skin. I got to be choshesh for the skin. Rav Chizda says, I'm not disagreeing that there's no chance for the skin, but it's so much more likely that it's a bone. I'm able to say that it's so unlikely that it's the skin. Chances are it's the bone. I can matir my shechita. Rav Huna is passing the shechita. Is that a psul doraisa or psul dorabanan? What would you say? Psul doraisa, psul dorabanan, and why?
Psul dorabanan because you could argue that the obligation was fulfilled when in the shechita, the property is b'dek, and that's what I think.
Okay, agree, disagree?
The fact that another rabbi is even arguing against it, it's probably the Rabbana.
Okay, not necessarily. They could be. Maybe they're arguing over the Deraisa. Maybe they're arguing over the Rabbanan did. Deraisa. They both agree that it's okay, right? It could be. Or maybe they're arguing over. They both agree that it's. One agree says that it's. The Midas Machogas is in the Deraisa. The Rabbanan both hold that it's possible. The chances are, what would you say? What would you have to guess? What would you guess? Deraisa, the Machogas, Deraisa, the Rabbanan, and why? Sean, what do you think? It pierces the Rabbanan. Why? Because you have a sakin, which is okay. You check your sakin, you do your shchita. Doraisa, it's okay.
You said is that what the Chazaka comes in?
Yeah, it appears that way. I mean, I know I have a knife. I do my shchita. No reason to ascertain my shchita is no good. Doraisa, it's okay. Midarabanan, I have a reusa. This reusa is only a reusa midarabanan because it was done after the fact. Now worry. Wait a second. Shema bor nifkama. Shema bor nifkama. Can I say for sure? So you're right. And if it was bor nifkama, I might have. It could, in theory, pass on my knife. But wait a second. We have a problem here. The problem is that if listen to this, if the skin is so likely to dent or damage my knife, then you'd say that midorais I'd have to do a bedika after every shchita. In fact, it's only midurabat, right? You follow? Again, if it's so likely that the skin, ba'or, is nifkama, my knife, that makes me midoraisa have to do a bedika on my knife after shchita, right? Because otherwise I commit. But we know that's not true. Rabbanan said, check your knife after you do shchita. Because maybe something happened. That's what you do Rabbanan. But if it's so likely that or would pass the Dorash, then you'd have to check it every single time. We learned already. We know that no. The Gemara said earlier, right? You should. It said you should do it, right? It was Takanas Chazal. You should do it. But if it wouldn't be, which meant that Midorash said, so you don't need to do it. Which means that the or nifkama can happen, but it's not that likely to happen. Because if it was likely to happen, Midorash would have to check it, right? So it also makes sense logically, right? The or someone said, it's a weak knife. And then a weak knife, tough skin. What are the odds of that cow such a tough skin? So that's somewhat unlikely, right? So, okay. Let's continue. So now we're trying to understand the two things. Let's continue. Just show Josh Rav too. Bishlama Ravuna Kishamaiti. So Rav Huna, we understand why. If that's Rav Huna that we did a long time ago. Remember Rav Huna? Rav Huna says, Omed, here. Behema bechaya bechaskas isra medas. Ad shivadelacha b'manishcheta. Right? So we understand why Rav Huna here says that it is no good. Behema has a chazaka of isra. Every minachai, in a zavuach, right? But it's not good. So therefore, until I can ascertain there was a perfectly glut kosher shchita, cannot eat this animal. That's Rav Huna. So Rav Huna, I understand why he says no good. Because he is choshesh, he's worried, even for something which is reusa. It's not likely that it happened, but it doesn't matter. I have reusa, I have a chazaka, this animal is no good. That's not, the reusa is not able to transform my chazaka, which isn't good. Because I have reusa here, and therefore my animal is no good. I have a knife, that is no good, therefore my animal is not for sure kosher. Now, so that in terms of Huna, the Gemara says, I understand why he says it's no good. I'm trying to be mevada b'man nishchata. I can't be mevada nishchata. I have a pugum in my knife. Says Rav Huna, no good. Whatever Rav Chizda. Ela Rav Chizda matayim. Rav Chizda, I don't understand Rav Chizda. Rav Chizda, why are you telling me that it is okay? Why is it okay, Rav Chizda? Let's read. Amar lecha etzem vadai pogem or safek pogem. So we kind of said this, but this is not your typical safek and vadai. This is a very different type of it. The Rashba and the Rishonim say that this Safek and Vadai is not your classic Safek and Vadai. This is more kind of the language we're using was statistics. More likely, less likely. Right? Rashi doesn't really say it that way, but the Rishonim spell it out, and that is this Safek and Vadai. There's a Gemara in Nida, which talks about Safek and Vadai, doesn't even quote the Tosfos doesn't even quote this Gemara. So other Chachamim say, why doesn't Tosfos, when he brings up a bunch of examples of Vadai, quote a Gemara? The answer is because this is not your typical Safek and Vadai. This is a very different type of Safek and Vadai. This is a statistical thing, likely, not likely. Okay, so Let's go through this again. So again, etzem vaday pogim. I know for a fact. You take a knife, you smash a bone. It's pogim. It's statistically likely that you take a knife, even your nice sharp knife that you do shchita on, and you smash a bone. It is statistically likely that my knife is going to get a nick. Or safi pogim, safi lo pogim. Listen, I could shecht 100 animals. It will not affect anything when it comes to my knife. My knife will not be ruined just by going through and severing the or. If I hit a bone, that could be different. But just going through skin, just going through membrane, just going through the kan and the veshes, the siman, my knife is much sharper than that. My knife minces it, goes right through. Oh, if it hits an etzem, that's different. Therefore, says Rav Chisda, vadai, I didn't read that properly. So etzem vadai pogim or safek pogim? Safek lo pogim. I don't know. Have safek v'vadai. Vein safek motzi midei vadai. And it's very simple. A safek is not motzi midei vadai. Safek, it's the or. Vadai, I know a bone causes the damage. So therefore, I can say, and I could be tola, the fact that my knife now has a nick in it, on what? On the fact that I was shover at Samos Kol Hayom, did the shchita at 10, I smash bones at 11, at 12, and at 1, I take a look at my knife, I say, oh yeah, brach, my knife has a dent in it. Says Rav Chisda, since the etzem is vadai pogim, or is safek, in safek motzi midei vadai, I can say with, not certainty, but with statistical certainty, that what? It was caused by the bone. Statistical certainty in this case, statistical certainty by my bone, which I don't know the number, is 80% of the time dents my knife. Skin, 3% of the time it smashes my knife. The odds are overwhelmingly in favor that my knife was damaged because of the bone. I can say it was the bone, which was after shchita. My shchita is okay. I can eat this meat and call it galat kosher and charge a lot of money.
Statistical probability plays a lot in this, like this Gemara in general.
Statistical probability will, that's exactly what Chazakas are, right? That's it, right? Nakav, what are the odds, right? But again, the question is going to be how far, meaning, the Choshesh Nekev Nakav is very unlikely to happen, but I am Choshesh by Sakana. Right? So because HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I have mitzvos, I give you the Torah, I tell you what's good for you, not good for you, I'm willing to forgo. When it comes to Sakanu, Shmartem, Nafsho Sechem, we see more Machmer. Right? So, even again, statistically, by the way, that is also true. When it comes to your health, you don't take chances. Right?
Even then, it had to be long enough for the snake to come out.
Right, had to have enough time that the snake could go out, deposit it, disappear. Right. Okay. But again, you have to have because you'd have some odd statistical likelihood. Right. And obviously, if you're watching it the whole time, or if you only took your eye off it for 2 seconds, there's not enough time, then you don't need to be choshesh for that. Right. The snake put venom in the apple or something. Right. So, but yeah. Okay, so that's the first part of the Gemara. But the Gemara is not happy. The Gemara now is going to. By the way, this is a very strange language. I meant actually to do a quick statistical search and I couldn't find it. Not because I couldn't find it, because I didn't try to find it. I have to be honest. I actually meant to do it. I totally forgot. And right now I'm looking at the Gemara, I'm like, oh, I never checked to see if this nusach ever comes up in Shas again. It's a very strange nusach. Very strange nusach. If you've come across this, please let me know. Listen to this. Meitiv Rava l'siyua l'Ravuna. Right, you hear this? Question? Rava asked a question in defense of Ravuna. Usually that would be phrased is right. So it'd be Meitiv Ravuna, i.e., or Ravuna's challenging, or Meitiv Rava Ravuna. What is this very odd language of a Meitiv Rava of a Siyua? What's this? Both a Meitiv and a Siyua all in one. I'm not aware. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. But I'd be very interested to see how common that type of nusach is. So, The Chasam Sofer says something very interesting on this Gemara, on this Nusach, because he's very sensitive to the text, and he says, no, you don't understand. We're about to bring a brisa to challenge Rav Chizda, meaning a siyua to Rav Huna, in defense of Rav Huna. But why is it that the Gemara used this language of Mesiv? Why didn't the Gemara just say Mesiv Rava on Rav Chizda? Why is it saying instead Mesiv Rava to defend Rav Huna? She says because this is also potentially a question to Rav Huna. Meaning the bigger question is against Rav Chizda. But there's something also in Mesiv against Rav Huna. And what is it? This brisa, potentially, this brisa is correct and understood properly. So Rav Huna, what's your chiddush? Halacha. What you said is the exact same as this brisa. What's your chiddush l'din? Why do you even need to say anything at all? Because we know, which is a nice principle in life, if you have nothing new to say, keep your mouth quiet. Don't say it. Right? If it was said before, if it was said already, don't say it. And if it's wrong, for sure don't say it. Right? We know that's the principle in learning. So, the Chidush of the Saf Sofer, he wants to say that why is this such a strange nusach? Because it's a defense, it's a support for Rav Huna, i.e., is a kasha against Rav Chizda. But he also uses the word Mesiv to say that maybe, yes, it's true, this is coming to defend Rav Huna. But there's also a question against Rav Huna, and that is, wait a second, why do you even say your Chidush L'Din if it's black and white in a brisa? That was very, very precise reading of the Gemara, right? Pick up that nuance, nusach, because it's again, the main purpose is to defend Rav Huna against Rav Chizda. But there's also a bit of a shtoch, a small mesiv, a small question against Rav Huna. And what is it? What's your chiddush l'din if it's a brisa? Okay, that's the. Otherwise, I have no idea how to explain this very strange nusach. Very strange nusach. Okay. Blin Yadar, we'll check to see if this language appears in Shas. I guess to try to do a search of Mesiv and a Seyua kind of back to back. Okay, let's go on. Here we go. I'm going to need a lot of, I don't know how many of you are familiar with a couple of halachos that pertain to mikvah and chatzitza, so this might require a little background information. Actually, let me give this background information right now. A person goes to the mikvah. So Bisman we're really only familiar with women going to the mikvah. Men went to the mikvah, unless you think that you're supposed to go to Rabbi today. I guess if you didn't go to Rabbi today, then you need to also make sure that you don't have any chatzitzas on your body. Okay, except for that, there's really no situation where a man would need to go to the mikvah. Again, going on Friday and First Yom Kippur, that's no bracha, there's no, that's just minhag. Although there is an opinion which says that we should make a bracha on Erev Yom Kippur, it's not, except that it's not good with what we do. There are different types of chatzitzas. A chatzitza means a barrier. A barrier. Here we go. Min haTorah, midoraisa, rubo umakpid. There's on the majority of your body, you're covered on something that you don't like. You're makpid that you get rid of it. Meaning, I'm covered in 51% of my body is covered in mud. No one wants to walk around with mud on them. 51% of my body is covered in clay. 51% of my body, I'm wearing a scuba diving suit, right? I'm wearing clothing that's tight. I'm using a scuba diving suit because clothes are actually very interesting. If they're loose-fitting clothes, might not be it's all. Before you guys get married, we'll talk about it in more detail. So, that's the very interesting rubo makbi, midoraisa. Then you have midorabanan, rubo or makbid. Meaning, if the majority of my body is covered in something, I'm not makbid on it. It's very hard to appreciate this in the year 2016. But let's say you live in a society, we're walking around covered in mud. It was normal. And you didn't mind, everyone's doing it. So you're not makbid. Doesn't matter. It's still rubo, midorabanan, so chaziza. Next, makbid. I'm makbid. Not rubo. I have a little bit, not rubo, of clay, of mud, of tar on my arm. So again, it's midorabanan. Why? Because I'm makbid on it. You're not going to walk around with, you go to the wash, you'd bother you, you'd scrub it off. So again, If it's rubo and makpid, midoraisa chatzitza. If it's either rubo or makpid, midorabanan, no good. You with me so far? That's the halacha. Other things are minhag. Now you have a few different areas. You have the head, you have the body, rosh and the guf. You have another area which is called the base hasdarim. Base hasdarim means like in between folds. You don't need mayim to go there. It has to be ra'oy lebias mayim. What does that mean? I'll give you two examples that you'll be able to appreciate right away. When you go to the mikvah, does water have to go into your mouth? The answer is no, it does not. But it has to have an ability to go in. What does that mean? Meaning, your mouth can't have anything in it. So you have to floss. Women floss to go to the mikvah. Right? Anything which is, if you have leftover, I don't know, Rice Krispies. Right? So, the accepted practice is that most people don't want to have food stuck in their teeth. How do I know this? Because people always having food stuck in my teeth. Right? It's a good question. Generally speaking, people don't want food stuck in their teeth, right? So again, that's called ra'ui lebias mayim. It has to be worthy for water to go in, but since it's beis hasdarim, since it's like encapsulated, it doesn't need to go in. Right? The other area where that applies is folded skin. If you're a ben basar, if you're a chubby guy, and you have skin that laps over each other, so right? If you have so here, if you take this is not a good example, but you have to see it now. Let's say I had skin that kind of closed over each other like this here, right? So I would not be obligated to make sure that water got in, like peel open my fat stomach to make sure water got in, right? So that water touches. That I have to have the water go in my arm. But if I have folded water, it's called beis hasdarim. It needs to be raw in the bias mayim. So if I had lint in there, if I had dirt in there, that'd be a problem. It has to be cleaned out. So it has to be raw in the bias mayim. It has to be worthy to have water over it. Bring water over it. That's good. Now, the process of preparing for the mikvah is called a chafifa. It's called scrubbing. And we do a chafifa before tefillah. You need to do a chafifa, you need to do a scrubbing, you need to do something of cleaning before mikvah. If you've ever been to the women's mikvah before, meaning the man's mikvah on Erev Rosh Hashanah, Erev Yom Kippur, you'll see signs everywhere, right? What do women need to do for the chafifa, right? They shower, they comb their hair, they floss their teeth. It's a whole long, often very emotionally charged procedure. It takes half an hour, 45 minutes. It takes its time. Okay? That's called a chafifa. Now, we can learn the Gemara. But it's good. It's good to... What? Chafifa is literally called... B'ivrit, Lashon. What's a chafifa? To scrub. No, isn't it Zemila B'ivrit? Nachon? So halachically, it's called preparing for the mikvah. It's called the chafifa. Chafifa. In yeshiva, it's called chafifa. So that's we prepare for the mikvah. It's called the chafifa. So, what happens if you don't do chafifa for the mikvah? Okay, these are interesting, very, very interesting shalas and halacha that come up. Do you need it? Not need it? But probably, I'll mention this now because if we get to Tosfos, he's going to say it. So I might as well say it now. It could be that in the Gemara talks about a chafifa, it's only really chafifa rosh. Everything out, meaning the chafifa that you really need to do is the rosh, which is just making sure your hair is not knotted. For a guy like me, and most of you here, that's not a problem. For women, that could be a problem. Make sure the hair is not knotted, they have to comb it out. Okay, we're good? Good, let's go on. All that was introduction to understand the brisa, but it's worthwhile, and it's good b'kiyas too. Okay, so again, Meisiv Rava L'Sula Ravuna. Here we go. Tavo, a guy went to the mikvah, the Allah, and he now comes out of the mikvah. V'nimsa alav davar chotzeitz, and he finds something which is a chatzitza. I said we have to compete with the noise in here. Af al pi shenit asek boto amin kol hayom. Kulo lo also lo tvila. Listen to this. So a guy is, let's say, a guy goes to the mikvah, comes out of the mikvah, and he finds clay on his body. Even though he's engaged in clay the rest of the day, he's a pater, right? Lo also, the tefillah that he took 2 hours earlier is no good. What? Wait a second. Guy goes to the mikvah, comes out of the mikvah, spends the next 2 hours a day with clay, discovers that what? Oh my goodness, I got clay on my... let's use the easy language now. I discovered clay, even though he went to the mikvah 2 hours earlier, even though he's working with clay in his pottery factory, the tefillah that he took 2 hours earlier is no good, he has to go again. So again, so what is the comparison? The guy did shchita, then he smashed bones, then he was engaged with clay, right? The knife is no good, even though it's statistically, if you're a betting person, what caused the dent on the knife? The bones. If you're a betting person, where did this clay come from? Post mikvah. Just like the knife was dented post shchita. The guy got clay on his body post tefillah. No, says the Brisa. Lo also tefillah. Unless you can say what? Ad sheyomar bari li shelo haya alai kodem lachem. If you can say, listen, I did a chafifa. I know exactly. I inspected myself. I know that there was no clay on my body. I checked. Don't tell me. Maybe I got this clay from before. I went into this mikvah squeaky clean. I'm in the pottery world. I play with pottery, and I got clay on me. That's what happened. Unless you can say that, not safek, bari. I'm certain. Bevadaut. That's what happened. Until you can say, bari li shelo haya lai kodem lachem. Okay. Okay, that's it. That's the end of the price. Everyone understand the comparison to the shchita case? Seems to be simple, but you gotta understand why it's a question on who. It's also a mini question on Rav Huna, because what's your chiddush ladin? It appears as a brisa, and if it's a brisa, you're quoted the brisa. That's the rule, right? You want to say, I'm telling you this, I'll tell you why, because it's a brisa. You should have quoted it. You didn't quote it, but don't say you have a chiddush ladin when it's right, you have to quote your sources. You have to no cheating, no plagiarism. Plagiarism. There's a brisa. How could you say that? Okay, that's what it is. Wait a second. There's a big difference between the two. How can you say it's a question? And Rav Chisda, they're not the same. Why aren't they the same? In our case, hacha devade tava, safek have ale, safek lo have ale. The difference is a huge difference. The guy's tefillah may not have been good. Why? It's a safek. When was this piece of clay on him? Before or after? And therefore, I apologize, my mistake. Sorry, this is a continuation of the question. Sorry, my mistake. This is a continuation of the question. This was explaining our comparison between the two. Okay? So again, I'll repeat that again. So again, in this case, he for sure was toveld. Safek was on before, sorry, on before. Katani safek motzi midei vadai. How come we don't say safek motzi midei vadai? And therefore, it appears to be a question on Rav Chisda, because this brisa seems to say exactly like Rav Huna, meaning that even though it's so obvious statistically that it should have been on you afterwards, even though it should have been afterwards, nonetheless, we don't say that a Safek is motzi midei sorry, that a vada is trumps the safek. No, we're choshesh that maybe the clay came on the guy later. Equals we're choshesh maybe the knife. Sorry, we're not choshesh that the clay come on later. We're worried that it was on there before, even though it's statistically unlikely. Even though it's statistically unlikely that the nick came from the skin, and even though it's more likely that it came from the bone, even though it's more likely that the pottery, that the clay came on the guy afterwards, it doesn't matter. The tefillah is no good, therefore we should say the shechita is no good. That's the question on Rav Chisda. Okay. Shani Hasam, here's the answer. He says, no. What are you talking about? Shani Hasam. The Ikala Meimar. I can say the following. Don't compare the two cases. Actually, you know what? Let's not even read this. Can someone tell me how could you make a distinction between the two cases? Tomorrow's going to have about 3 attempts here back and forth. What would you say might be the difference between the cases? Oh. Hey, are they really the same? Are they really the same? I'm going to the mikvah, come out of the mikvah, I'm involved with pottery, discovered pottery on me, I can't say for sure this was not there before, my tefillah is no good. Shechita, I check my knife, I check the animal, smash bones, we don't say smashing of the bones, but rather, ba'or nifgama, my shechita is no good. My tefillah is no good. Are these cases really the same? The Gemara wants to say, Rav Chisda, these are the same, the kasha on you. How might you draw a distinction? How might you save Rav Chisda? Saving Rav Chisda. Can you save Rav Chisda? And more importantly, how would you save Rav Chisda? Why you want to save Rav Chisda, we know. It's Taos Nefashos. We have an obligation to save a Jew. Right? How can we save him? Okay, here we go. Says the Gemara. We got. Let's get there. Very simple. The guy before he walked to the mikvah was tamei, and guess what? I'm questioning his tefillah. No good. Says the Gemara, let's take the behemoth, not the knife. Because the knife has a good chazaka. But the behemoth doesn't have a good chazaka. Remember our behemoth? It's a chazaka, ena zavuach, ena shchuta, every minachai. No good. And I'm questioning if it was shachted or not. Because maybe it was a pegim on the knife. And hare shchuta levanecha. Wait a second. When it comes to shchita, I look at my animal, it's dead. Shchita lefanecha. You can't ask that question. The guy went to the mikvah. So you're going to tell me I have shchuta lefanecha? I'm going to say, tova lefanecha. No good. And here's the answer. Isleida beriusa. Oh, sorry, something beriusa. One more. In both cases, there's a beriusa. In both cases, my knife has a dent in it. The guy has a chatzitza on him. Finally. Saki nisraib, behema lo yisraib. No, we're making a distinction here. What's our distinction? We're saying there's a pegima in the knife. We're saying there's a pegima on the person. It's very different. Why are they different? I'm not interested in the knife. I'm interested in my animal. I don't have a pegima in my animal. I don't have a neck of knockoff in my animal. I have a psula in my knife. Not in the etzem item that needs to be metahir or that needs to be nishchita. They're very different. This brisa is not, at this point in time, and that's what we're going to conclude for today, this brisa is not against Rav Chisda. Because Rav Chisda could say, what are you talking about? This brisa is two different things. This brisa is saying, the person that wants to be metahir, I have a question, I have a reusa against him. He has clay on his body. But my animal that I want to eat, do I have a Reusa on my animal? No. Therefore, you can't compare the two cases. If you want to compare the two cases, then talk about the mikvah and talk about the knife. You follow? If the mikvah is a suffix chaser arba'im sa'ah, if my mikvah, maybe there's a reusa that it doesn't have arba'im sa'ah, and my sakin has a pagam, and both of those two things, both those items are transforming the item, transforming the person, transforming my animal, that's comparing apples to apples. But I'm not questioning the mikvah, I'm questioning the person. That's the person that we want to transform. I'm not interested in transforming the knife. I don't care about this knife. I care about the flesheks. I care about the meat. And therefore, you cannot compare this brisa. It's not an attack question against Rav Chisda, because this brisa is talking about the etzem adam, the man himself. Where it is when it comes to our knife. I'm interested in the knife. You don't have a reusa against the animal. Therefore, reusa against the knife is not the same as a reusa as a question, as an X against the person. It's the person we want to be metaher. I'm not just going to be metaher a knife, I want the animal. Therefore, this price is not comparable one to the other, and therefore it's not a question against Rav Chisda. And that's how our Gemara for now concludes. Okay, we're not going to have time to deal with the Tosfos or a couple of other issues, but okay, that's why we have Shavu Haba, same time, same place. If you want, review our Gemara just while going over with Rashi and with Tosfos, so we're going to examine them a little bit in more detail next week as we are beginning to set the stage. And I want to push to make sure we're also making traction, but I think highlighting a few things B'iyun is very, very important as well. Dealing with another daf or so of Chazakas, which you're going to see be quite fascinating and enlightening. Also, you want to understand the whole principle of Chazakas, taken from a picture of 30,000 feet from step back, but we'll get there, Mir Hashem, as well. Shkoch, everybody. At the end, we're going to do a shechita.